Our local documentary is tackling difficult topics in South Africa through candid conversations with influencers. From mental health issues to black love and black tax, no topic is off limits. The People versus the People is a sequel to The People versus Patriarchy and The People versus the Rainbow Nation. Let's take a look at the trailer.
You're out here fighting for survival. One thing you can do.
Grade 4, I wanted to be on a group. I said a white person.
When I was growing up, I didn't want to be black.
We love white people more than we love ourselves.
There's only this much of the pie that black people can have.
No one has really said to you, eating a whole lot of pap and meat is wrong.
Being feminine as a boy, no. Being transgender, what is that?
Black Twitter is both black love and black hate.
I'm not scared of you guys.
As black people, we have so much pain and trauma.
How do you love black love?
Black that.
You're out here fighting for survival. One.
Black love.
Black that.
You're out here fighting for.
Right now, joining us in studio to talk more about that documentary is the director Lebogang Rasitaba and Mokgadi Itsweng, who's featured talking about black love and food in the documentary. Lebu, first of all, you're the director of this documentary. It's a prequel. What were your thoughts going into this? What were you trying to achieve with this?
Yeah, I think it was just very important to start having conversations about healing. Mm-hmm. I think I'm at a stage in my life where that's something that's become super important to me. So thinking about like love as a form of healing, thinking about my relationship with food as a form of healing, and all the different ways in which I can activate healing and making a film as a form of healing, and then also so for people to watch the film to also explore different ways of healing. So that's why it was important for me to have Mokgadi in the film, for example, because she does quite a lot of work with food. As creating conditions for healing. So that's essentially big picture what I was trying to get to.
You talk about internalized emotions, internalized issues. In this one, you talk of black love, black tax, as well as mental health issues. That's quite a wide-ranging spectrum there. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's always important to look at the ways in which these things sort of intersect, right? So when you talk about internalized oppression, I think that there's a lot of stuff we carry a lot of, like,
we as in black people.
Yeah, particularly. I can only speak on
okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so we're just carrying around a lot of stuff, you know. We've inherited a lot of traumas. We've inherited a lot of oppression, and maybe it's a way of trying to survive, that we start enacting that on each other. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you have things like colorism, you have things like xenophobia, you have things like interclass conflict, the idea that there can only be one black. When you get to a restaurant and you get bad service, you have to ask yourself, why am I getting bad service? It's because of this idea that there's only enough space for one. You know what I'm saying? So those are the kind of ways in which we've internalized oppression, and I think it's really just about finding ways to let go of that kind of stuff. And
Mokgadi, you talk about black love in the documentary. Just explain that to me.
Well, for me, food plays a very important role in defining love, especially from growing up. You know that food is an expression of love from your mom. So the kinds of food that we're eating are also determined by how we see ourselves and self-esteem. I mean, if you think of people moving from rural areas to urban areas, we kind of lost a lot of the indigenous food knowledges, systems, and those things have actually affected us and affected how we view ourselves as human beings, and how we suffer from all these diseases.
Do you think we're taking on a diet that is not ours because we feel, if I now have anchovies, if I now start eating all these exotic type sort of sounding foods, I've now arrived?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's we've basically taken food represents our self-esteem now. It's like the stuff that's good for you that your grandmother used to make, that stuff is poor food. So nobody wants to eat that, and that's the stuff that's good for you. I mean, it's taken big people like the UN to declare our foods, our indigenous foods, as superfoods. Only now people are listening and saying, oh my God, my grandmother knew this all along. But us as South Africans and as blacks, we haven't internalized that. We've kind of even moved away from it because it represents poverty for us.
There's this thing, Elokshin, they say that month end there has to be like a stack of debonair's boxes outside your house, or any junk food, and that's a metric for success. It's a metric for worth.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways in which people are trying to, and I think at the core of this film there's a sense of like we're trying to explore like a sense of dignity and humanity, and the way different people understand and explore their own sense of dignity and humanity. Because as black people, we're in a constant pursuit of dignity. So, and there's all these external metrics for dignity and worth.
Yeah.
So there's and because in a capitalist world, there's like your car, you're this. So we're very extrinsic.
But doesn't it come naturally though? Because we are now, when you look at the independence of African countries, when you look at 1994, when you look at South Africa, there's a lot of people that we didn't have many of these things.
Sure.
So finally, when I have it,
exactly.
I want you to see I've got it.
And
is that not natural?
Yeah, and it's completely
intuition.
And there's this Kotani in the film who completely validates that point, that I affirm myself through how I look and what I wear. And I think it's just about trying to find a way to not make that like particularly toxic, or at least affect other people negatively.
Yeah. Mokhadi, your advice to young people out there?
Well, my thing is we need to start looking at our indigenous ingredients, because those grow naturally here and they're cheap and they're free and they're healthy, mostly. If you look at things like Morocco grows wild here. And it could really end world hunger, but we just need to change the way we see it.
You know what? I just when you're talking about this, and I'm just thinking, and I always wonder why you go to Shisanyama and so forth, and the way we serve our own food to ourselves, it's almost like, just give them anything, it doesn't matter. The environment can be dodgy, it doesn't matter. And then you go to a fancy restaurant, you want to eat different types of food. Why are we not serving traditional food in a fancy restaurant on a fancy plate to ourselves?
Because it's poverty food. Again, it's the way we see our food. We've always seen it as poverty food. And it's, for me, the reason why we're here is because there's a link between our grandparents and our parents that was broken.
Yeah.
So that information, because our grandparents cooked this food, they knew why. They knew that it was healthy for you. They knew that if you ate mabele in the morning, you won't be hungry because it's low GI and it's protein packed, so you won't be hungry until like afternoon. They knew that, but we don't know, and we don't understand why you're eating mabele.
Yeah.
So that knowledge system has been broken between our grandparents and our parents, so we don't have that information. So again, we and our parents had a low self-esteem around where they came from. Obviously, it was their fight and their things that they were fighting against, apartheid, and so the way they see themselves, and they've passed it on to us, is that, black food, indigenous food that we grew up eating that's healthy is actually poverty food. So they've actually instilled this fast food mentality, this I'm rich, I can eat pizza, I'm rich, I can eat fried chicken, which is the one that's killing us.
I can eat pizza, fried chicken. Guys, thank you so much. So the people versus the people will make was screened selected Ster-Kinnico cinemas in Tshwane and in Soweto as well at the Maponya Mall, correct guys?
Yes,
and
18th.
it gets launched very soon.
Yeah, August 3rd on MTV.
Yeah.
And then 18 to 20th is having a cinema run at selected Ster-Kinnico is the one. There's Mpumalanga, Pretoria, Maponya
Mall in Tshwane as well. Thanks. All right, guys, thank you so much. Go ahead and watch it. It's called The People versus the People. They speak to a whole bunch of influencers about a lot of the issues that we're talking about here. Lebogang Rasitaba was the director, and Mokhadi Itseng, she's featured in the documentary. She's talking about black love and food, as you heard there as well.